Hello, thank you for joining us for today's session titled The Changing Roles of Fathers, Global Parenting Perspectives, which is a part of Global Reflection series hosted by Enstitü Sosyal. I would like to shortly mention a very important project by Enstitü Sosyal, the Convention on Children's Rights in the Digital World. This project defines the rights of children in the digital age, exposes the systematic threats that violate these rights, and calls on all of society to assume responsibilities in these regards. And for more, please, you can use the QR code, or you may want to visit our website for this project. Thank you. Okay. Today, we are pleased to host three distinguished guests who bring valuable insights from different regions and disciplines. Our first speaker is Dr. Hala Al-Ahmadi, the Family Policy Manager at the Doha International Family Institute, Qatar. With over 18 years of experience in designing and implementing family-focused policy projects, Dr. Mohammed has played key roles at UN Women, UNDP, and civil society organizations in both the Middle East and the UK. Can you please open the translator's voice? Is that possible? Thank you. Okay. Her deep expertise in gender and family policy will offer an important foundation for our discussion today. And next, we welcome yours, Dr. Árpád Mészáros, who has built a career in international and European affairs, particularly within the education and legal sectors, and currently serving as strategic and coordination vice president at the Maria Kopp Institute for Demography and Families. He brings a policy-driven European perspective to our conversation on evolving fatherhood roles. And finally, we are joined by Professor Dr. Hatice Ferhan Odabaşı, a leading academic in the field of educational technology. And with decades of experience in national and international research, her work explores how technology intersects with education and family life. And currently, she is a senior researcher at Enstitü Sosyal. Professor Odabaşı will share her findings on digital fatherhood and transformation of parenting in Türkiye. And participants who require Turkish translation can switch to Turkish by using the button on the Zoom board. Please feel free to engage in the discussion and ask questions during the QA session following the panel at the end. Thank you. The floor is yours, Dr. Hala Al-Ahmadi Mohammed.
Hello, good evening. On behalf of Doha International Family Institute, I would like to thank the Enstitü Sosyal for organizing this timely webinar on the changing roles of fathers, international parenting experience. This event is a valuable opportunity to reflect on the evolving family structure, family dynamics, especially in light of, many challenges that faces family in the current era: declining birth rates, shifting values, and the future of parenting itself. As this year marks the year of the family here in Turkey, we are especially pleased to contribute to this dialogue by sharing insights from our researchers in the Arab region. I'm really glad to be part of this discussion and share some of the insights gathered by Adivi on parenting and fatherhood at the Arab region. Am I sharing? I have to, sorry, I need to share the screen. Sorry. Okay. Yes. Is it clear now? I think it's clear, right? Okay. When we talk about fatherhood today, we are not just talking about biology. We are talking about deeply social role, one that carries emotional responsibility, caregiving commitments, and influence over child development. Fathers have always played a central role in family life, but their influence goes far beyond the financial provision. They shape children's emotional health, behavior, confidence, and value. Our research and research in general shows that when fathers are engaged, especially in emotional supportive ways, children thrive. We see better mental outcomes, health, stronger academic achievements, and healthier relationships. Fathers also serve as important role models to children and for gender equity and shared responsibility. So when we support fatherhood, we are strengthening not only children, but also family and also, community and ultimately the nation state. Evidence from the global research have consistently confirmed that the vital role of fathers for children development. UNICEF notes that early father-child bonding contributes to long-term mental health, self-esteem, and life satisfaction. Even simple everyday interaction like, storytelling, playing together, taking children to school, helping in homework can have lasting emotional benefits. The State of World Fathers Report of 2021 showed that fathers globally are spending more time than before with their children. It's like about 13 minutes extra per day compared to earlier years. However, although that this is positive, but it's not enough. The World Report of Fathers, World Report of 2023, which gathered data from 17 countries, showed that mothers still shoulder the majority of caregiving responsibilities, 1.36 times more on housework, 1.32 times more on physical, child care. So this imbalance, and it goes 1.26 emotional child care, and also in cooking, parental care, they do more than fathers. So this imbalance is not just a matter of time. It reflects structural barriers to shared parenting. So, and in the Arab region, this is particularly critical because we need to look more and to do more research to understand more about parenting and especially the role of fatherhood. To bridge this gap is because there is a gap in knowledge, and this is essential if we want to want more effective and inclusive policies. In the Arab region, particularly in the Gulf, fatherhood carries strong traditional significance. As they are the head of households, respected for their role in providing and protecting. But social norms continue to assign caregiving roles primarily to mothers, as elsewhere also, not only in the Arab region, this happens in other places. Fathers are expected to be providers and often spend less time at home, not necessarily because they are emotionally detached or they don't want to do so, but because of work demands and also social expectations. This imbalance does not mean that Arab fathers are emotionally detached, as I said. On the contrary, many are deeply committed, but face structural constraints. And yet we have very little data on how fatherhood is actually practiced across the region. The lack of research, as I said, is a gap that we urgently need to close, and to understand more, we need to carry on more research in different aspects related to fatherhood in the Arab region. And to address this, in DV, we conducted a regional study that we sought to map out parenting programs across the Arab region, analyzing the goals, the methods, and the impact of these parenting programs. Because at DV, we do research, but not research for the sake of research itself. When we do research, it's a research, policy-oriented research. So the goal of conducting any research is to identify what are the policy gaps and what are the recommendations to close these gaps from policy perspective. And so we used mixed method approach, literature review, broad regional survey, and focus groups with mothers in 3 countries: Morocco, Jordan, and Oman. We identified 180 parenting programs, 32 in the Arabian Gulf, and 38 in the Arab Mashriq, 26 in Arab Maghrib, and 12 in less developed countries. One of the most striking findings that we found that there is like gender gap. The vast majority of the participants of these programs, parenting programs, were women. Fathers were largely absent. So this reflects not only cultural norms, but also the programs designs themselves. So when fathers are not engaged in these programs, it limits the potential benefits for children and for the families. That's why we need family-friendly programming that encourages more, men and fathers' active participations. Another research that we did through the USRA grant, it's DV-supported studies, explores the link between fathers' involvement and adolescent self-esteem in Qatar. We used a sample, that's the research used a sample of 30 adolescents aged 12 to 18. And one of the key insights was that indirect involvement, like being emotional available of fathers and responsible, was even more impactful than direct interaction. Adolescents with supportive, accessible fathers reported high self-esteem and more positive perception of the father's moral leadership, emotional support, and gender role modeling. So these findings show that lasting influence fathers have on the youth identity and emotional well-being, even in cultures where caregiving isn't traditionally expected of men. Another research that we did was during a research that examined how families in Qatar navigated the challenges of COVID-19 pandemic. So we focused on changes of family dynamics, coping strategies, and the impact on parental roles. So this research, we applied mixed method, combining insights from 47 quantitative interviews and 702 qualitative survey responses, with participation from Qatari and non-Qatari mothers, fathers, and youth. One of the most notable findings was the increased parental presence at home, largely due to the remote work and school closure at that time. So this shift led to stronger marital and parental bonds as families spent more time together on a daily basis. In fact, 88% of the respondents reported working or learning from home, and nearly half, 48%, noted that home schooling had positive impact on their relationship with their children. Parents also reported an enhanced understanding of their children's responsibilities and abilities, and they were more involved in their learning and daily routines. Many families engaged in shared activities such as reading, sports, and hobbies, which contributed to high quality family time and deeper emotional connection. This accompanying graph that is here in the slides highlights that 42.5% of participants viewed remote working as having a positive impact on parental tasks, compared to 28% who viewed it negatively and 40.5% who were neutral. Based on these findings, the study recommended the adoption of institutional family-friendly policies at work, includes flexible working hours and remote working options. These policy measures can help sustain parental involvement and work-life balance, not just during during crisis, like COVID-19, but as part of long-term national policy efforts to strengthen family cohesion. And then we did another research, which we looked at the gender stereotype on the GCC and family cohesion. And this study highlighted the persistent structural barriers that, as a challenge. Caregiving is still seen as a mother's duty, and paternity leave stand out as one structural barrier. It is limited in Gulf countries, where it exists. In some countries, it doesn't exist. There is no parental leave, and in another, it ranges from 1 to 7 days. And and also it can be under constraints. Positive parenting requires shared responsibilities. So parenting leave isn't just a benefit, it is a tool to encourage early, father engagement and gender equity at home. So in Qatar, institutions like Qatar foundations are leading by examples, and here the offering, we are in Qatar Foundation 5 days for paid paternity leave since 2017. However, the outcome of this study underscored the importance, again, of family-friendly policies with a specific reference to paternity leave on a broader, a broader policy reform to make sure parenting a societal norm and not only an exception. In conclusion, to conclude, the evidence is clear. Father involvement is essential for child development and well-being. Active father engagement, especially emotional and indirect, is strongly associated with adolescent self-esteem, positive formation, and overall family well-being. Yet, caregiving is still unequally distributed, and father participation is often overlooked. And we have the structural barriers, and here I'm referring mainly to policy gaps and limited leave, prevalent shared parenting from becoming a reality. The pandemic, COVID-19, reminded us of the value of the family and also flexibility, and how also policy can contribute to transform this reality. So this gap, and also from our researches, we found that there is a gap of research. And this is where we try to close the gap at DV by making research especially important in advancing more inclusive and evidence-based approaches to parenting. And through our research, we are advocating for inclusive evidence-based parenting policies that recognize the father's role in building a stronger family and more cohesive society. And our recommendations, we recommend first and foremost adoption of family-friendly policies at work, especially to expand maternity leave and paternity leave to support caregiving roles for both parents, and redesign leave policies by mandating at least 2 weeks of paid paternity leave to promote fathers' active involvement in early child care, and institutionalization of flexible and remote work arrangements to sustain parental engagement and work-life balance. And we also recommend more investment in inclusive positive parenting programs to promote co-parenting by ensuring equal participations of fathers and mothers, and design programs that are accessible, appealing, and responsive to both genders, and also to do more regional research and for policy alignment, conduct joint regional studies on fatherhood to strengthen parental roles within Arab cultural contexts, and integrate shared caregiving and gender roles education into premarital and marital counseling to promote balanced family dynamic, and standardized parental engagement policies in schools through, line ministries, ensuring involvement of both parent. And of course, there is a need of, launching campaign and community outreach and public awareness through national campaigns and outreach via state partnership and culturally relevant platforms like mosques, majlis, and develop and share media content, and we can utilize the media, YouTube expert videos to highlight fathers' emotional and development roles. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, and I look forward to your reflections, your questions, and also learning from your presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you to Dr. Al-Ahmadi Mohammed and Juris Dr. Árpád Mészáros. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, I also would like to thank for this special and very important opportunity to share information and data and research results from a perspective of member states of the European Union, with a little switch, because you might recall it that family policies in the European Union sometimes is a very difficult policy to be supported in most of the cases by the governments. Instead of these social policies in general are more welcome. So our question today from the Hungarian perspective was the changing roles of fathers in the family. Is it enough to remain only the breadwinners of our families? But before I would say I would go into the details, I would like to say a few words about our institution, which is a family policy orientated institution in charge of preparation of decisions and impact analysis for the policymakers in Hungary, and especially for ministerial and governmental decision makers. And one of our most important part of work is to prepare publications, analysis and research on population, childbearing and welfare of families. And I do believe that in these issues, in between of these issues, the parenthood issue and the fatherhood issue of family policies is an important and a very important one. In recent years, as a result of changing parental roles, there has been a significant shift in thinking about the role of fathers. More and more research is focusing on the changing roles of men within the family and the expectations placed on fathers, given that demographic and social changes are also having a significant impact on men's roles in the family. The traditional role of the father as the provider of financial security for the family has changed in recent decades, giving rise to a demand for fathers who are more actively involved in their children's lives and who are able and willing to care for them. This is reflected in the expectation that fathers should play a dual role as caregivers and breadwinners at the same time. Attitudes towards the role of fathers in the family may change as a result of the type of fatherhood that a society considers acceptable, which in turn may be linked to economic, social, and cultural issues. Oh, I was just a little bit fast. Okay. The majority of young people in Hungary who are about to start a family want a traditional relationship, as confirmed by the latest youth research in Hungary. In traditional conservative societies, public opinion considers child rearing and everyday family care to be one of the primary tasks of women, while men are expected to provide financial security for the family. Given that today's parents strive to perform well both in the labor market and in raising a family, the egalitarian family model is becoming increasingly prominent. This can be facilitated, for example, by creating alternative job opportunities or promoting equality between men and women both in the labor market and in the division of household tasks, as well as by taking advantage of childcare leave, all of which can contribute to a better work-life balance and family well-being. In contrast to traditional role perspectives, the starting point of the dual earner, dual carer, egalitarian approach is the equal sharing of breadwinning and caregiving roles between the sexes. According to this family model, there are no sharp role boundaries or differences in expectations. Both parents are expected to participate in both financial family tasks, which are often divided between them on the basis of fairness, preferences, and competencies of both parents. Okay, when we are want to talk about a little bit the reasons for these changes, I would like to emphasize that with the two-income family model becoming the norm in our country, expectations of women now go beyond child rearing, with mothers facing dual roles, caring for the family and performing well at work. However, the traditional role of fathers has changed in recent decades also. There is now a demand for fathers to be more actively involved in their children's lives, and the breadwinner model is gradually being replaced by a model of fathers who are able and willing to care for their children, resulting in a dual role for fathers also, caring and providing financial security for the family at the same time. With the two-income family model becoming the norm, expectations of women... the male roles within the family, including the role of the father, are determined by several factors. One important factor is the labor market, which is, among other things, the central institution for the division of labor between the sexes and, consequently, for the division of roles within the family. Another important factor is access to welfare services, including the institutional system of childcare. Institutional childcare during the day can lead to a transformation of traditional gender roles by making child rearing not exclusively the responsibility of women. In addition, the legal and institutional framework and rules of a given society, such as the legal institution of non-transferable parental leave for fathers, may encourage active paternal involvement in childcare. In addition to the above, a given society's ideas about family roles and perceptions of women's roles also influence male roles within the family. And when we are talking about the challenges, An important aspect of the labor market factors that partly determine the role of fathers is the amount of time spent at work. In today's Hungary, fathers typically work full-time, so they mostly only have the opportunity to spend time with their children in their free time. To facilitate this, mothers tend to exempt fathers from participating in household tasks. This practice is in line with the harmonization of labor market participation and active fatherhood expectations, but it also leads to the persistence of gender inequalities in the performance of domestic work. So I would like to emphasize this important fact that that this help coming from the mothers to the fathers in respect of domestic work could be a real challenge in long term in a family. Nevertheless, based on the research, it can be assumed that the caring role is becoming increasingly integrated into the set of paternal roles also. In recent years, there has been a shift towards a modern image of fatherhood, but fathers and mothers continue to be identified with concepts that refer to the classic model in general. So from a personal perspective, the changes are there and could be seen, and more expectations are coming in our everyday life from a personal perspective. But from a general perspective, we saw that the general concepts, the traditional concepts of family as a classic model remain somehow. So what do I want to say with this information and analysis of the situation? When we are talking about the results of our researches, I would like to emphasize the followings. Traditional attitudes continue to prevail regarding the roles of women and men within the family, and especially it is true in Central Eastern Europe. And it is not the case for the western part of, and especially the northern part of the European Union. As we see, somehow in Central Eastern Europe, the situation remained more conservative, taking into consideration the perspectives, how to see the roles in the family. Value research on parental roles still considers child rearing and daily family care to be the primary tasks of mothers in Central Eastern Europe and especially in Hungary, while the primary expectation of fathers is to provide financial security for the family. However, alongside traditional values, there is also a significant egalitarian attitude, and especially in our personal life, which points to a kind of social polarization in our society. In addition, there is a dual role expectation for fathers, providing care and earning a living, and there is a visible strength in respect of these expectations. The population surveyed considers the participation of both parents important in activities carried out together with children, play, leisure activities especially, and in supporting and providing emotional education, listening to the children. The roles of fathers with young children within the family reflect a pattern of active involvement and care, but the traditional role of the father as the provider of financial security for the family remains important and is expected not only in the family, but expected by the whole society in Hungary. The women and the men surveyed had very similar views on family responsibility, suitability for caregiving, and the distribution of tasks and parental roles within the family, but there are very important differences according to educational attainment, subjective financial situation, age, and type of residence. Those with primary education tend to hold traditional values, agreeing that it is the husband's job to earn money and the wife's job to take care of the household and the family, and that it's the mother's task to take care of the children on a daily basis, reflecting support for the traditional division of gender roles. For the people with secondary and tertiary education, it is now changing very rapidly, and they are not very keen to follow this trend and remain positive with this approach. However, as we see, people with primary education only, the trend is very conservative. Similarly, those in more difficult financial circumstances have more traditional views on family responsibilities, daily childcare, and leisure activities with children. In the first case, they consider it more important for men to take on greater responsibility, namely the financial, providing financial good financial circumstances for the family, while in the latter two cases, daily childcare and leisure activities with children, they consider the primary role of the mother to be preferable. The older generation believes that it is primarily the father's responsibility to teach children how to behave and to act as a role model. In the younger generation, it has been changing. And in most of the cases, in between the younger generation, it is not so fatherling to be the role model. People living in large cities support greater maternal responsibility for the family, which indicates an attitude favoring the egalitarian family model also. And finally, I wanted to mention that young people also support the ideal of dual income, dual care families when it comes to financial security when they are starting a family. In its survey conducted in January 2025, Kinch, so our institution, examined the position of fathers within the family. Almost 100%, 95% agree that parental responsibilities within the family should be shared between mothers and fathers. While earning money to support the family is seen as a shared responsibility, family and household tasks are still mostly done by women. 8 out of 10 believe that men play a greater role in providing financial security for the family, while mothers play a greater role in caring for and raising children. 3/4 of respondents agree that fathers are more involved in child rearing and household work than in the past, and that fathers' roles in the family have changed in recent times. And I wanted to mention that these changes are really important also in our society, even though that the Hungarian society is a very conservative in respect of the traditional roles in the family. But I do believe that these changes are very visible in most of the European Union member states, although we need to admit it that it is much slower in the Central Eastern European part of Central Eastern European part of the European Union. And finally, in respect of the result of researches, I wanted to mention that 9 out of 10 believe that most important factors for achieving an appropriate division of tasks in the household and in caregiving are a change in social and community attitudes and a change in employers' attitudes. And I do believe that it is very important and also in line what we could hear from our colleague from Doha, that some changes in the employer's attitude should be introduced to make real changes in respect of family life in respect of work-life balance. In addition, the majority believe in Hungary that men's attitudes should also change and that the state and the education system should also provide more support for sharing the parents' tasks. So, what are the answers of Hungary for these expectations? Along with the basic principles, parenting should be financial advantageous and family policy should be focused on mothers. I need to emphasize the fact that it is very important to preserve the sense of security in raising children. And for this reason, it is very important that at the end of the day, families should receive help for home ownership in Hungary and introduce tax relief system. Those can help reduce the effects of earning losses in the modern earning family model. So family taxation, tax relief for mothers with children, and tax exemptions under 25, for example, as these were introduced in the Hungarian system. And I do also believe that of providing opportunities for the fathers to remain at home on parental leave and on paternal leave, taking part in caregiving, especially after the birth. One of the most important things is to help fathers to understand that their attitudes should be changed. And finally, I wanted to also mention that the improve the daycare institution system services in a country could be very effective tool to help families create a real work-life balance where father could take part in the everyday family life. So thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you to Dr. Mészáros. Thanks for your presentation. And yes, can you please stop sharing your...
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. And now the floor is with Professor Dr. Ferhan Odabaşı. The floor is yours. Thank you.
To listen to two of my colleagues from different parts of the world and understand that we have similar problems and understand how strong is fatherhood in different cultures. And it is so nice to see and understand that you have an important value for fathers all over the world, it seems, because from Europe view and from the Arab view, we see that it is so important. And starting my journey as a linguist, I should say, what is this for me? Is it for me? Okay. Now, starting my career journey as a linguist, I always try to start with a linguistic point of view and try to understand what word means. So, your link page, please. And Baba is a word from baby language in Turkish. And in fact, it's in many languages as well. I have no idea about so many cultures, but in many cultures I know as Dada. And we have Baba and Mama. But the first saying is Baba because it's a bilabial voice. And it is, in fact, the bubbling. In Turkish, babbıldama means when your child's trying to produce new words, they start with the Baba, Baba, Baba. So our first word in the world is actually Baba. And we have the different connotations in Turkey for it. And Gülrenk page, please. And when you see the connotations in linguistic point of view in Turkey, and its connotations are power and the bounds and money and love for many. So baba means in a position to have courage and to have power for many, and not just the scarce of anything. So your money is from father, your love is from your father, the power is from your father, and your bonds are all from your father. And in Turkey, in Turkish language, we have different approaches to baba word. And page, please. And in daily Turkish, baba is used as an adjective with various meanings. In fact, there are more, but I don't want to go into them so deeply. But as a surface word, when somebody says, what a baba man he is, that means he is a very strong and very kind of inclusive man, so that he does everything for the people around him. So if someone is a baba, it means that they kind of embrace you all. And in fact, we have sayings for pop stars in Turkey as baba, because they kind of sang songs to many people from the many different positions in social positions in Turkey. So they were carried as baba, like Orhan Baba, Ferdi Baba, because they embraced people. And if something is very difficult or strong, in a strong sense, we say like, what a baba question that was. So that means that was a very difficult, very strong question. So probably it was kind of, a question that you couldn't answer, so strong, so difficult. And the last for today is, I stood there like a baba all day, because baba also means pillar, a column in Turkish language. So having said that, you can easily understand that baba is a very, very forceful kind of concept for Turkey. Can I have the page, please? And the father in Turkey is portrayed as a strong, powerful, resilient, and protective in every sense. As for carrying the money, as for caring for the family. So therefore, for Turkish digitalization journey, in Turkey's digitalization journey, it was mothers who received the most attention, because now I can see also from Hungary and from Qatar that also that women are taken to the scene, to the stage, to give assist to help to. But we never understood how vulnerable can fathers be from time to time and different subjects. So fatherhood was so solid, so dominant in Turkey, that we never thought that they would need assistance, they would need help. And our research was mostly focused on mothers, and we aim to support them. We aim to assist them, help them in their journey to digital world. But we never thought of fathers to be needing one. So that is, in fact, us, the researchers and the educators, to blame, because we kept the mothers always in the first place. So that's a kind of social made structure in our heads, that we believe the fathers won't need anything. But that was not the case indeed, because the fathers were held back in many cases. In Turkey, the male figure is not a one to show his feelings, but ladies can cry, ladies can, shout, ladies can blame people, ladies can be, vulnerable, but men They don't cry in social settings, you know. They are given roles to them. So we didn't understand how much they needed our support. But when we came to the digitalization, şey alabilir miyim? Page. Yes. So when we came to the digitalization side, and because of this digital age, we came to understand fathers more. Fathers were the group that was most affected because they had the authority. So if you have something, you are the one to lose it. And because mothers didn't have the authority, they didn't believe they have authority, they were not much affected. But the fathers were affected in sense because the only thing, like my Hungarian colleagues said, they shouldn't be breadwinners, but they were breadwinners and they were left out because they couldn't ask for assistance. And we came to understand that they lost their authority because now the knowledge, now the information was in children's hands. This is not Turkish because in Turkey we have the authority going from top down, from father to mother and to children. And now it was the reverse. The children's authority became first-hand because they had the information about digital life. They had the information about digital tools. So father was no more a role model. So they lost their role model capacity as well as their authority. And they had no one to blame for that because they felt vulnerable and they couldn't ask for help. And we, the researchers and the educators, did not show any affectionate towards fathers. So we are guilty in that sense. Could I have page, please? And in 2024, the Social Institute carried a research and where I happily worked with other researchers from the Institute. And we had families and we tried to carry on interviews at the same time with the 3 people from the family as being father, mother, and the child. So we carried this in Istanbul and we tried it to be a pilot of a forthcoming research. And this first research was, in fact, gave us a lot of idea about the family structures and how the children were kind of, more careless in the age of digitalization because they knew more, and how mothers were hesitant and how fathers were kind of I should say, feeling awkward because of many things. In fact, they claimed in this, this was a research carried on a qualitative base and as a phenomenology, because Turkey has a different phenomenology with digitalization. How we forgot how we were a family and kind of, we gave all the power of family to digital tools, and in a sense that made a kind of a social change which we were disturbed by. And in this disturbance, the fathers were the unhappiest group at first. And in this research, they gave us the clues about that. Page alayım mı? And fathers in this research claim that they know, they accept that technology is very important and beneficial, but they couldn't understand what was going on with the mobile phones and how their family was affected by that. Because in olden traditional Turkish family, the father had the remote control. And this was the loss of authority because they lost that manhood area of television. They lost their remote control because now everybody has their own control and everybody is in their rooms. But they still believe, the fathers still believe that their families are fine and their families are powerful, and they trust their families, but they are rather uncomfortable with the exterior pressure. Excuse me. So they were not happy with the other people on the internet, other people that their children were playing with, other people that their children were in favor of. These comparisons going on by the children, like saying that all the other families on Instagram are going on a picnic every Sunday, which was not the case, in fact, but you couldn't make them understand, the children, that it was not their all weekends, but it's just the one weekend probably, and that is all is for a shoot. They have to shoot these scenes to put on Instagram. So we have Instagram families now, and that kind of gives discomfort to the normal traditional families, that because they are not like that. And for fathers who are the caregivers and the bread winners of their families, are rather disturbed by these comparisons. And they are afraid that they will change the roles, because they don't want to be very, frightening father. They want to be egalitarian, and they want to be, full of sympathy and full of love towards their children. But since this is the case, they now say, I am afraid I will lose the control, and I'm afraid I will lose my family. So in this sense, it is very disturbing for fathers. And it is time for us to find a way to involve fathers and get them into the sense of programs, get them into the training sessions, and help them with their kind of decisions, and show them it is not the only way to overcome all this. The controlling is not the only way, but rather learning more about this digitalization age, about the digital life of children, is probably the only way. And that's I believe how we can overcome this situation. And thank you very much. Thank you very much, and I'm ready for your questions.
Thank you to Professor Dr. Ferhan Odabaşı for your nice presentations. Thank you very much. Yes, we can have the questions from our participants if they want to. They can write it on the chat board right now. And I actually have my own questions to each participant until we have other questions. For example, this question is for Dr. Hala Al-Ahmadi Mohammed. And Ferhan Odabaşı mentioned the impact of digital technologies for the fatherhood roles. And my question to you is, how are digital technologies and especially social media influencing fatherhood in Qatar today?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, we did a research actually on that, the impact of, how digital technology affected parenting, not only fatherhood. And the research, actually the research sample involved parents and also adolescents and children and practitioners as well, to learn their perspective, or the policy perspective. And of course there is the positive side, but also there is a negative side, which is that children, the loss, as Dr. Farhad said, of sort of authority is there, that children are spending lots of time in the internet. And also the fathers and parents as well, they are also modeling this behavior to their children, there is also another this aspect that it's like both ways. Yeah, and it's affecting also the children and affecting also their relationships with their parents, and there is the psychological impacts, and also the lack of physical activities and all that impacts also on academic, although that it has been technology has been a powerful tool and assisted adolescents and children, especially during the pandemic, getting lessons and all this, but also there is the downside of it. So it's like a complex sort of relationship and also findings. But at the end, it's what we do. What can policy making or policies do to confront these challenges? And there are, of course, some measures taken by some countries, like in China, for instance, they restricted the access to the internet, and and also there are programs to help those who are really, absorbed or lost in this digital world to the degree of being addicted to their devices. Special programs also offered by governments. In Qatar, this is some of the insights that I shared, that the research that we did. But I would like also to take this opportunity and to ask Dr. Ferhan, if I may, about the policies that you can recommend and what we can learn also from the Turkish experience in dealing with this issue of technology and parenthood and fatherhood, and what we can learn also in Qatar and the Arab region. Thank you.
Yes, Ferhan Hocam,
Okay. Okay. Thank you. It was a pleasure to talk to you, and I hope we can come together in face-to-face occasion in Istanbul, perhaps, and talk all about these issues. But we have a long story in Turkey, because Turkey is, with the young population, it's a highly adaptive community for technologies. And we kind of, we use it as a credit to give our kids a telephone. So we made that mistake at the first hand, and we tried to buy the best phones for our kids, but we didn't let them understand what it meant, or rather we didn't understand it as well, because it took us some time for Turkey to understand that they can be risky for children. And when we understood, it was late, because our children were highly on it, and they just couldn't stop. And we have lots of digital addicted people in Turkey. But I think it's the similar. And when I was in China, I understood, because they have these restrictions on their internet, and because totally Chinese, they are not worried so much like us, because we use lots of foreign material, and because it's not all Turkish, and we can use different countries' materials prepared for our children. And sometimes that may be a rather culture-breaking issue. So we have to be, very aware, too much aware of it. And now the families, when in this research we carried out, I came to understand that how a technology can be both very good, very beneficial, and very harmful. And I come to understand, we don't have much time to talk about it, but I come to understand, I give one important example perhaps, like WhatsApp technology, like a mobile telephone technology. It brings the family together when we are away, but when we are near, it aparts the family.
Divide us.
Okay, so
Yeah.
different issues are going on in Turkey right now, and much of the things we can do is only the training and telling them about, and telling them not to frighten them, but to say that how it can be risky, because whatever there is that belongs to humanity is on the internet. And because internet makes things more easier to reach, it makes also bad things too easier to reach. It makes also human, insanity easier to reach, like pedophilians easier to reach. And we can make it in the good sides, but it also makes it easy to reach our faraway friends, the knowledge, the information. So we have to make a balance of these, probably. And this should be carried. We are very eager to carry more research on the family year of Turkey, and hope that we can give more training to our parents. Thank you.
Thank you too. And I have one question to Juris Dr. József Mészáros. And you have mentioned dual roles, and that was quite very interesting. And so I just want to know, based on your observations, then how do you envision the role of fathers evolving in the coming decades? What is going to happen?
Thank you very much for the question. I do believe that it is a very important question. And it is not only a challenge for the whole society and not only a challenge for the families, but definitely for the fathers. And especially in the younger generation, I do believe that it is a very important question. First of all, I mentioned during my presentation that it is very important as a new family and a parental role to keep part in the emotional life of the children, and to have serious talks with the children, but not from an order giving, not from an authority position, but to understand what the real problem of the child is, what the real problem of the next generation is, because it is the only way to remain in the circle of the children. Otherwise, as we see in our societies, it is very visible. And I need to admit it that it is somehow in connection with the traditional way of thinking about families and parental roles, that the fathers just don't want to understand the situation and the expectations and the especially the emotions of the children. But they would like to educate them how to behave, how to see life, how to build up their life. I don't believe that it is the future for the next generation fathers, because in most of the cases, from this perspective, the children will see the real opportunity for information and for beliefs coming from their own age partners, from other children, and not from the father. And it is very in line with the situation what Madame Odabaşı was talking about, in respect of losing space and authority in respect of the digital environment and the digital society. Fathers won't understand in that way the digital future and the digital environment and digital life around us. And it will be the truth in the next generation only. So the children who are now perfect in the digital technology, as a father, maybe will be in the position not to understand what will be there at that time, the digital reality for their children. So I do believe that one of the most important things is to create this connection with their children, and especially on emotional basis. Otherwise, they will lose their real connections. They could take part in the family life. They could take part in the life of the children. But I do believe the most important thing is this kind of emotional and partnership with the children.
Okay, thank you. It was quite interesting. Thank you very much. And yes, this year is, as Professor Dr. Ferhan Odabaşı has mentioned, is the year of family in Turkey. And we really have some developments here going on. And yes, in a few days, the date of Father's Day is also very close in Turkey. And based on these emotional changes and digitalizations and so forth, Professor Ferhan Odabaşı, how can we help and support the fathers then? What shall we do as a population, as a society?
Yeah. Well, this is a transformative age. So whatever we can do for the fathers of this age, we will do. But as Professor Mészáros, I'm sorry, I never talked to a Hungarian name, so sorry about that. And as you say, people will be lucky in the future, in the coming decades, because these young people will be fathers. They will know what is good and what is bad for them. But these fathers of these years, sorry for them, because they have to catch up with many things. They have to catch up with the new society traditions. They have to catch up with the digitalization. They are frightened of losing the control of their family. But good families will find a way anyhow. And when you are interviewing them, you can understand that if there is an empathy in a family, if there is a good relation, if there is an affection in the family, nothing will disturb that emotion. But if families are reluctant to have this kind of a relation, any kind of little shock, like a little earthquake, would bother them. Because these are social earthquakes. In Turkey we are an earthquake country, and we have lots of earthquakes. But social earthquakes don't show their results in just as strict as the natural ones. So we have to wait and see. But when I say we have to wait and see, we have to keep the necessary help for the fathers. Because I believe actually men in Turkey are more vulnerable, because they cannot show their feelings, and because they are rather, and it took me many years to understand that. We have lots of research carried out about the perception of fatherhood, about the fatherhood presence and things like that. But this is the first time we are talking about the role of fathers in the digitalization. So it's a very new subject for us too. So we have to carry on more research to understand what's going on and how they will behave, because this is a very big transformative area now. So we have to keep in touch with the family. We have to keep in touch with the fathers and try to understand how they feel, as much as we can do. It's not our institute only, but the government should also carry out different sorts of things. And I don't know that I learned many things about Professor Ahmadi Muhammad, and I can understand that about the parental leave. I had no idea about the parental leave for fathers. So I looked up in the Google here and learned that it was 10 days for the government officials in Turkey and 5 days for the private sector. So perhaps we can start with that. And for all the countries to make parental leave for fatherhood a little bit more, to understand how the mothers suffer in the first days of the motherhood. Thank you.
Yeah, that's quite right. Very, you're so right. I just wonder how it is I know that's in Germany, they have a parental leave for fathers, which is really long, like 1 year they can take off. And in some cases, also 2 years. How is this in Hungary, Dr. Árpád Mészáros?
Yes, thank you very much. The situation is very complex in Hungary, but I need to admit it that if there is a decision taken by the parents that not the mother but the father will remain at home with the child, the same rights are provided for the fathers under the scope of the social security system as for the mother. So it might happen that the family decides that the mother goes back after the birth of the child to the labor market, and the father remains at home. From this perspective, I do believe that it is very important. But it is also very important under the scope of the Hungarian system that 10 days are provided to remain at home for the fathers definitely after the birth of the children. And I do believe that under the scope of the European Union legislation, what I mentioned, that was the paternal leave for 10 days, but there will be an opportunity for parental leave also for the fathers under the scope of the legislation. Which means that it is not only after the birth of the child, but it can be used at a later stage. I need to admit it that it is not so. It is welcomed by the Hungarian society, but it is not so often that the father remains at home or spends a month with the child. During the first 3 years of the children, and it is not so common as it is or could be common in the western part of Europe or northern part of Europe. But I need to admit it that from this perspective, as I mentioned during my presentation, to provide legislation for parental leave defined only for the father, and if he doesn't take it, doesn't take the opportunity, the right will be lost. It couldn't be transferred to the mother only partly. It could be a good step for the legislation to introduce the opportunity to remain for the father with the child and share the tasks with the mother at a later stage, not only after the birth of the child. The Hungarian legislation is also very broad in this perspective, and we need to admit it that now during the first 3 years of the child, if the father remains at home, the money provided by the social security system is almost the same as the earlier earnings for the first 6 months. So it is quite a huge period which could be used by the father also. And after that, also a higher level of income provided by the social security system, and at the same time, it is an opportunity for the father to go back to the labor market. So working and being on social security which means that the loss of the income wouldn't or couldn't be or shouldn't be a problem for the family. But at the same time, it provides the opportunity for the father to create a real connection with the child and to take part in the family life instead of the mother in a deeper way, at least for a period of time. And I do believe that it is very important because during the first 3 years, such a kind of connection could be very useful and a very good basis for a real connection between the father and the child.
And that means, do you think that the length of a paternal leave is actually has an impact upon the father role too? Then
Yes, definitely.
Okay. There's one question, and it says, you mentioned the impact of digitalizations on father authority. Today, we see that some fathers are involved in their children's videos on social media. They produce humorous content. They even create trends together with their young children. How do you evaluate fathers contributing to their young children's content? Do you think this is a loss of dignity and prestige, or a new method of communication? Okay, I guess this is very close to what Professor Odabaşı has told us with becoming closer and becoming disconnected, maybe. Professor Odabaşı, do you want to answer this question?
I should say that if there's a gamer father, and if the father puts the child into the game, and if they play together and try to tell something, that's a very good opportunity for the structural bonds between them. Like, I know about father and the son in one of these YouTube channels who show making how to repair old bicycles. And it's the son and the father together. It's a very nice combination. They are doing something useful for the society, and they are doing something good for themselves. And if they, publish that is okay. But if they publish some nonsense in TikTok or somewhere else, that, that's no use for anybody. And it's I find it very corrupt myself, anything done on the TikTok, and I find it very corrupt.
So the content is important, you see.
And what you are doing is how you are carrying out is,
Oh, I see. Okay. Is this the same case also in Qatar, that maybe the presentation of father roles are important, and there is some prestige, and the depiction is also involved, so that they have to carry on a role in social media?
Yeah, it's not only, as I said in my presentation, across the GCC, father role is very important, and historically and maybe until now, they are it's authority figure within the family, and there is sort of still distinct roles, the breadwinners and the homemaker. It prevails to great extent. And this is not only in Qatar, this is across the Gulf and maybe in the Arab region, as a whole. So although that these kind of roles, they are, transforming, but it's still, there is still a way, to go until, change happens. So.
I see, yes. Argun Meric, another listener, is asking, it is not clear if this transition of fatherhood is voluntary or mandated either by partner or the society. What do you think? Do you think it's influenced by the partner or the society? Dr. Mészáros, do you want to answer this?
Yes. Yes, thank you very much. I do believe that one of the most important change could be initiated by in the family itself, by the partner. Of course, I do believe by the expectations of the partner. If those expectations are directly communicated, I do believe that it can help for most of the men to understand it. And in the younger generation, it is not a real problem to be open for such a kind of approach. But as I also mentioned, it is very important what is expected by the society itself, how the society changes in respect of the vision of the fatherhood, of the parental roles. Because I do believe that where the whole society is a very conservative and expect only the traditional roles of the father, it could be a real challenge for a family, for the two partners to introduce new changes. From this perspective, I do believe that the changes are more mandatory and more rapid in the big cities, in the city life, because in most of the cases the pressure is higher in this environment. And in a classical smaller environment and traditional environment, could be more voluntary if the partners are willing to take part in this process, to change the parental roles, to change the father's roles. But I do believe that in that case, the process is much slower and much more pressured under the scope of the traditional ways of life and the traditional expectations of the not the whole society, but the smaller community, for example. So from this perspective, it is a complex issue, and that's why we can say that it very deeply depends where we are researching, who is the target of our research, and what kind of people we are talking about. Because as I mentioned, there are different parts of the society where the expectations are definitely differentiated or could be differentiated from time to time, from space to space in a country.
Yes. And how is this the case in Qatar, Dr. Mohammed? How is this is it mandated by the partner or the society? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's mostly society, and as I said, that things are changing. It's changing. The structure is changing. Roles are changing. But still some roles are, are still the same. So that's why we need, there are sort of structural barrier, to transform these roles. And this is where policy can come here to support, in terms of family-friendly policies. And, this can really contribute to shifting the norms and shifting the roles.
Yes, that's all right. We are at the end of our time. Thank you for being with us today and for your valuable engagement and your presentation. Thank you so much. And we are truly grateful to our distinguished speakers, Dr. Hala Al-Ahmadi Mohammed, Shukran, and Dr. Árpád József Mészáros, köszönöm. And Professor Dr. Hatice Ferhan Odabaşı, teşekkür ederiz. For insightful contributions, and today's discussion reminded us how the role of fathers is shifting across different cultural and political contexts, and how important it is to explore these dynamics and to look at the global perspectives. We look forward to welcoming you again at our next sessions. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a nice day or evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.